Hello. Now, as everybody knows, unlike wives and girlfriends where one is enough, you always need one extra kayak, and I do have a bit of a kayak collecting problem, as you can probably see. I want to show you this one, the modern plastic kayak with its comfortable seat. It's got inbuilt buoyancy with its compartments. The underside is very soft and predictable. Makes for an easy handling kayak. It looks after you. If anything, its only problem is it's a bit too boring. Or there's this beastie, the Itiwit style skin on frame kayak with work of art wooden framework. It's a thing of beauty. The cockpit, which is a bit hard to see, there's the cockpit, only a tiny little hoop, so not as easy to get into as the great big keyhole sitting underneath there. And if you look underneath, this boat has hard edges, hard chines as it's called. And the Greenland boat has these very hard, sharp edges because it's skin. In this case, it's just ballistic nylon, but the Inuit, they were using seal skins, and that dictates a boat with these sharp edges, which changes the handling. This thing is really quite a committed ride. She's a fairly bouncy boat. That's the one that challenges me, and that's one reason I love it. And that brings me to the X500. Now, because I paddle on the sea in sort of conditions where you do need to look after safety and you need to be able to rescue yourself, I'm very keen that the handling of this boat's as good as it could be. If you look at the seat, it's really quite wide, and there's this whole section where you're not supported. So if you start to do manoeuvres and rolls in this boat, you just slide up against the side, your centre of gravity shifts, and it becomes unrecoverable. So I bought some closed cell foam and made two of these big pads with a bit of Velcro underneath. And they both fit on those flat bits of the seat, which means I'm supported and locked in. And I know, because I had a version 1 last year that I'd already done this to, that makes a huge difference to the handling. The other thing I've done, in fact the previous owner of this version 2 had already put those two D-rings in there, and the strap that comes to keep it all together when you're folding it away makes a great thigh strap. That's because these boats don't have the thigh braces that you would find in most modern sea kayaks, so you're pushing up against that and there just isn't any support. We're going to go down to the beach and I'll show you how I think that will make a big difference, and it can be loose enough to slide out so it doesn't affect safety at all. But let's head down to the beach and I'll show you what I mean. So here we are at my local harbour in Port Ballantrae in Northern Ireland. My friends from the Kayak Club were out today practicing some rescues ready for the season. But before I joined them, I headed out to the mouth of the bay where I could find some more challenging conditions. I had a 20 knot offshore wind blowing. It was choppy. It was right on the limit of where I was comfortable being out on my own in a new boat. The boat didn't realise the conditions were challenging. It was behaving beautifully, it was stable. Most sea kayaks will weathercock, which means that they tend to turn into the wind, and I would have expected a little inflatable to be really affected by the wind, but it just wasn't. The handling was neutral. It coped with the waves. Heading back in against that wind, I was still holding 2 knots, and the boat was punching way above its weight. It might look like a beach toy, but this is a proper kayak, and I'm very impressed so far. So I went and saw my friends and said hello, and they were quite interested to see what on earth I'd turned up in today. It's a stable wee boat, and it feels quite rigid.
Alright, James.
Oh, yeah. Alright.
There's a wee bit of wind out there.
There's a wee bit of wind, yeah. Which probably
Yeah,
wouldn't be its strongest point.
it's a sailing dinghy.
It's made the same as a stand-up paddleboard, so it's higher pressure.
Yeah.
So once we'd had a wee chat, I headed off on my own to practice with the boat and find out what it's like. First of all, did a sculling draw, and it goes sideways really well, very manoeuvrable boat. Next I moved into some low brace turns. I could put the boat on edge. It would sit with fantastic secondary stability. No concerns about it chucking me over. Now, I did use a version 1 last year, and to me the version 1 felt good. It didn't feel tippy, but that's probably because I also use a Greenland kayak. This V2, it's better. It has more stability. I wouldn't sell a V1 to buy a V2, but since I've got a V2, I'm very pleased because it handles great. Okay, let's deal with the elephant in the room. Build quality. The X500 is a bit fragile. I had to put a patch on the seat bladder in this one. I also put a couple of patches on the outside where the material was starting to look thin at the folds. And I've decided that every boat I've ever owned needs maintenance, it needs repair. This inflatable boat is exactly the same. You have to look after it. Occasionally you'll have to put patches on. At this price, good grief, just enjoy the boat for what it is, because it's a cracker. So, you rescue me if I end up at the bottom. Yeah. Don't know how this is going to work. No thigh braces or any of those nice things. Just skill, pure skill. It's been nice knowing you all. There. No bother. Now, I bought this boat because I'm hoping to go over to Scotland in the summer. I can't take a conventional kayak with me, but I can take this one. And what I really want to know is that I can roll it, or if I miss a roll, I can get back into the boat. Oops, yep. Time to try that wet exit. Yeah, I'd love to say that was deliberate, but it wasn't. I started coming out of the seat. Well, I hadn't planned to swim quite so soon, but I did need to know that if I was in the water, could I get back into this boat? My friends saw that I was in the water. They came straight over offering to help. I asked them just to stay nearby while I practiced getting myself in without assistance. First of all, I had a look to see how much water was in the boat, and the answer is very little. Even though there are no bulkheads, no compartments, this boat is full of air. just doesn't need extra flotation. And I decided to try getting up on the back deck and then getting into the cockpit, sometimes known as the cowboy rescue. And that worked so well, I simply didn't need to use my paddle float. I'll carry one, but I'm very confident that I can get back into this boat if I have to. It's my attempt to do something because I don't have any thigh braces. So
always help with a roll.
Well, there you go. Back deck. Good. That's it. That's a wee bit more before.
I know.
I couldn't do that. I was splitting two.
Well, if I'm taking this to the Scottish Islands, I want to know I can get myself back in. I've got paddle floats, so get everything. I would hope not to do too much capsizing in anger. Easy to pump out though. Right, so one successful roll, one successful brace, one failed roll, but able to re-enter over the back deck and pump the boat out. And friends here in the Kayak Club were there round me to help and make sure I was fine, which was very good of them. I think what I am learning is this strap that I've fitted inside is necessary for techniques like rolling. There's no thigh braces in this boat, and you can only push up against the fabric. But if I use this strap to keep the thighs in, then I've got some control. Need to leave it loose enough to be able to get out of the boat, though I was able to release it, so I think I'm going to use that rather than leave it off. I feel happier if I know I can control the boat. Now, some of those rolls were a bit sketchy. Partly that's bad technique, it's my own fault. I was dipping my blade. I'll practice and get slick. But I noticed that the seat bladder creates a hump, and that made it harder to lie on the back deck, so I dropped it to about half pressure, which really helped. So I think in future I'll paddle with a partly inflated seat bladder. Okay, I'll say it for you, that is terrible technique. I need to tidy that up. But with the modifications, at least I'm able to roll and work with the boat. So, user error, the boat's performing really well. Technique could have been better, but I'm upright. So, there you go. I've bought another X500. I'm pleased with my purchase. This is going to allow me to explore areas where I can't take one of my more conventional boats, and I'm looking forward to playing with it in the Scottish Islands later this year.